So, you came back just like you said you would. Don't check the mirror tonight. It is time for chapter 105. Bus drivers on rural night routes develop a particular relationship with their roads. They know every curve, every stop, every landmark that tells them where they are in the dark. They know which stops are used regularly and which have fallen out of use, which shelters are maintained and which have been left to weather. They know the rhythm of a quiet route at night in the way that only someone who has driven it many times in the dark can know it. And because they know it so well, they notice when something is wrong. When a stop that should be empty has someone standing at it. When a passenger boards from a shelter that has not been on the official route for years. When the mirror shows something in the back of the bus that the driver must decide, in the space of a breath, how to respond to. A bus driver had been operating a rural night route for 11 years. He knew the route completely, every stop, every road, every shelter, including the ones that were no longer in official use. The decommissioned stops still had their shelters in most cases, simply no longer appeared on the route schedule. No passengers expected there. No buses obligated to stop. On the night in question, he was perhaps 40 minutes into his route when he saw the figure at the decommissioned stop, standing in the shelter, facing the road, in the particular posture of someone waiting for a bus. He slowed. He could not have said why exactly. The stop was not on his route. He had no obligation to stop, but he slowed. And the figure stepped forward, and he stopped, and opened the doors. If these stories have found their way to you, if you find yourself returning to this quiet room, there is something small you can do, like and subscribe. It tells me, and whatever else watches from this room, that you were here, and that you intend to find your way back. The passenger boarded without speaking, without making eye contact, moved directly to the back of the bus and sat. The driver closed the doors and continued the route. He checked his mirror. The passenger was sitting quietly, looking out the window at the dark road passing. Entirely still, in the way of someone who has done this journey many times and finds nothing in it requiring attention. The driver continued driving, checked his mirror at intervals. The passenger remained still, remained quiet. And then the driver noticed something about the window beside the passenger. The glass was fogging, slightly, from the inside, in the particular way that glass fogs when something cold is very close to it, from the inside of the bus, from the passenger's side. He drove, he did not stop, did not speak to the passenger, did not ask for a ticket or a destination, simply drove his route in the way he had driven it for 11 years and checked his mirror at the intervals he always checked it and noted the fogging glass with the controlled attention of someone who has made a professional decision about how to handle something unexpected. The passenger looked out the window. The glass fogged where their breath or their presence touched it. The driver kept his eyes on the road more than on the mirror. There are things that are better managed by peripheral awareness than by direct attention. He had understood this about his route long before this particular night. 3 villages further along the route the passenger stood, moved to the front of the bus. The driver opened the doors without being asked. The passenger stepped off at a stop that was currently in use, a legitimate stop, serving a village that existed on modern maps and modern routes. The driver watched in his mirror as the passenger walked away from the stop into the dark, moving with the unhurried pace of someone who knows exactly where they are going. He closed the doors, continued his route. At the end of his shift, he sat in his bus for a while before going inside. He checked the back of the bus. The seat where the passenger had sat was cold, the window beside it still slightly fogged, and on the glass, where the passenger's presence had been closest, a handprint, small, clear, from the inside. Shakkoi, that handprint, he told me. Cold and precise, and exactly the size of a hand. He told me quickly, the way people tell things they want behind them. He said the thing that stayed with him was not the fogged glass or the handprint or even the decommissioned stop. It was the moment he slowed, that decision he could not entirely account for. To slow at a stop that was not on his route, for a passenger who should not have been there. He said he had driven past that shelter hundreds of times on previous nights without incident. Whatever had been standing there on this particular night had not been standing there on those previous nights. It had been there on this night specifically, and something in him had known to slow before he had consciously processed what he was seeing, as though part of him had been expecting it, had been ready for it, for longer than he knew. Rural bus routes in Japan often pass through areas where the population has declined significantly over decades. Stops that once served active communities now serve memories of them. Shelters maintained out of habit or bureaucratic inertia long after the last regular passenger used them. And I think about what it means for someone to still be waiting at those stops, still standing in the shelter at the right time, still facing the road with the patient posture of someone who has not been told the route no longer comes, who boards when a driver slows, who sits quietly for 3 villages, who gets off at a stop that still exists and walks away into the dark, going somewhere between the places that the modern route connects and the places that the old route used to connect, before the villages emptied, and the stops were decommissioned, and the schedules changed, for everyone still living along the route. Another whispered story from Japan, shared quietly here beside the kotatsu. If you drive a rural night route and you see a figure standing at a decommissioned stop, you must decide in the space of a breath what to do. Most drivers do not slow, do not stop, continue past the shelter and the figure in the dark, and tell themselves they did not see clearly at that speed on that road in that light. But some drivers slow, open the doors, allow a passenger to board from a stop that has not been on the official route for years, and drive their route, and check their mirror at intervals, and note the fogging glass without speaking, and open the doors 3 villages later without being asked, and sit in their bus afterward, looking at the handprint on the inside of the window, small, clear, precise, left by something that needed to travel between places that the modern route no longer connects, and found a driver willing to slow down. If this story stayed with you, if the dark or the shadow feels a little closer tonight, you know where to find me. I am always here beside the kotatsu, watching, waiting. And if you wish others to find their way here too, there is something small you can do. Like and subscribe. I would not object.